everyone, thank you very much for coming this evening. Lovely to see you all again. We have been getting back just in the last month or so to physical events, so it's lovely to see you all. We had digital events for a long time, as I'm sure many of you either know or can imagine. So it's great to see you here today. We're using the same format that we did last time, so we hope we also have people watching us at home. This is a hybrid event, so we're being live streamed on Facebook at the same time. And what we'll also be doing over the next day or so is using this video and putting it on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find it there too. So as you know, the theme for this evening is ways into work. And I hesitated a little bit about what to call this, whether to call this Swedish workplace culture, whether to call it finding a job in Sweden. But ultimately, I think because of the mix of guest speakers that we have, and because of the nature of the theme, and there's so much depth that of course we could go into, I think ways into work sums it up best. And you notice that I've called it number 3 because we've already had a couple in the past. The last one was online in March and we had a different set of speakers then. But I think that the reason that this more general theme works well for people is, of course, there are lots of different agencies that you can go to and get help. But I think sometimes if you've been looking for work for a while, or if you're just trying to figure out how to get used to the Swedish workplace culture or how to get into the system, then sometimes a friendly face, a little bit of extra knowledge, a little bit of extra inspiration is perhaps what you need. So we hope that many of you will find that you'll get some good benefits this evening. We have a nice variety of speakers who can come at this topic from different angles, and I know them all. I've met them all before. 2 of them have spoken at our previous events, and the other lady I met more recently, but I knew straight away that she had so much to offer. So we're very grateful to all our speakers for being here this evening. I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to HIC. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank our guest speakers. We have Federica, who will begin, Ali, who will be next, Ina, who will be our last speaker. We'll take a short break after Ali's presentation, just about 10 minutes, so you can go and recharge with coffee, move a little bit, and then we'll come back for our last speaker. And after we've finished, you're very welcome to stay on, chat, meet some more people, have some more food and drink. We think it's an important part of our HIC events, actually. We've set them up from the beginning so that we have half an hour mingle before and about half an hour afterwards, because that's when the connections are made. And we have people here tonight, I know, who have made, perhaps I shouldn't say lifelong friends yet, because it's only a few years, but have made wonderful friends since coming to our event, so we're very happy about that. If it's the first time you've been to a HIC event, just to give you a little bit of an idea about who we are, what we do, I set up HIC with a friend back in, well, we launched in 2014, and we decided that there was a need for English-speaking events for people living in this area. We wanted to be able to share useful, helpful, important information with people, and we wanted to be able to provide events and networking. So that's what we've been doing since then. And since 2017, we've been partners with Helsingborg, who, this is, you may not know, but this is the Näringsliv office. So we have the Trade and Industry Department here. We have the Tourism Department here, communications as well. So we're very grateful to be able to use these offices. We have this nice space that we can use, and they also fund us for running 12 events a year. We run a lot more, but anyway, that's what we do. So I'm just making sure that I've told you all the brief things that I need to tell you. We also have some wonderful volunteers this evening. So thank you to Graham for filming again, Osa and Leo for helping out as well, for Catty for coming along as well at the last moment. So we have some great people here. HIC was, as I just mentioned, we're a completely independent organisation. We're supported by the municipality in the ways that I just mentioned. We also have working space here if we want to use it, although we haven't been able to use that for a while because of the pandemic, but hopefully we'll be coming back soon. It's a network for international people, and most of all, we like to think that this gives you a focus, an opportunity, somewhere that you can turn to, a friendly faces that you can meet, that you can find someone who might be able to help you with your questions, your concerns, and this is something that we do at our drop-in sessions. So I'll talk about that in a moment. What do we do? Well, yes, events and networking. We run drop-in sessions. They are on a Tuesday once a month at Mind Park at the moment. So actually the next one is next Tuesday. If you're free between 9 and 12, what we're doing at the moment is running a booking system, but we'll probably get back to a more general drop-in soon. We were just doing that so people had a little bit more space and were able to talk to us more easily, or could also contact us over Zoom if they wanted to. Monthly newsletter, which you can find on the homepage of our website. Welcome to sign up if you don't already get that, and then you'll get all the information about the events and general local news. We do what we can to share information about Swedish traditions. For example, did you know today is Shrimp Sandwich Day? So we're talking about that today. It's quite an important part of Swedish culture. We like to let people know what's going on locally. So it's lovely to see, for example, we'll be posting tomorrow that Dunkers is having a grand reopening on Saturday. So we'll have a little bit of information going out about that tomorrow. I also just spotted yesterday that it's confirmed that the, I can never say it properly and I'm not going to try right now, but the lovely pre-Christmas event, the Advent weekend event, which is held over in the main square, will be back this year. So we do what we can to share information. Yeah, we do a lot of connections, a lot of putting people together and facilitating, which we love to do. And when we can, we like to also showcase our international talents. So if you are looking for work, or if you come along to our drop-in session or something like that, and you'd just like to get your face and your name out there, we can do that. You can write a little bit of text about yourself, send us a nice picture, and we'll get that out on social media. And you never know, might get picked up by somebody. We also have a podcast, if you don't know that already. We've been running that since, let me think, we started that in January. It was a Vision Fund project, and we've actually just finished our 14 episodes, but they're still available on Buzzsprout, so you can find that until the end of the year. And we also set up a YouTube channel a little while ago, as I just mentioned, and they're all on there too. So all kinds of subjects there. This one here mentions volunteering. We've got an interview with the head of the international school here. We've got interviews with the people working at the library, the contact centre, H22, H+, all kinds of different things. Just to let you know about some upcoming events, I just mentioned we have the drop-in session next Tuesday. We've then got a coffee morning over at Bruket Cafe Bar, which is over in Bruksgatan, I don't know if you know it. Very nice place. That's 8:30 till 10. And that's on the 11th of November. Following on from that, it's not yet on our website, but it will be very shortly. We have an event called Winter in Skåne, and we're co-hosting that with the International Citizen Hub Lund. So Suzanne, who works there, will be coming up from Lund, and we'll be running that one at Hetch. So it's a little bit different. We thought it'd be nice to run it in a different place, and you give people the opportunity to learn about Hetch, which is the local tech incubator. Lots going on there, and it's in what I call the fancy building, you know, the one, the Prisma building, just over there. So it's a good excuse to come and have a little look around. And they've also got a very nice restaurant there, which has opened very recently. So if anyone wants to stop on for lunch after that, we can do that too. It's a Monday morning, it's a slightly different time, but we hope that you'll be able to come. And if you're looking for something a little bit more evening based, or a little bit more grown up even maybe, at the weekend we're doing a pub night and bowling at Pitchers, which we did just before the pandemic and was also a lot of fun and very popular. So that's a little bit about HIC. Now I'm going to hand over to our first guest speaker. Federica, thank you so much. You joined us before for one or two events. You've talked about Swedish culture before and Swedish workplace culture. I did. So yeah. So thank you for coming up as well from Malmö, and yeah, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and for inviting me.
Federica, let me just give you the microphone first. There we go. Okay, it's just a little clip. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have the technique set up, so good evening. Oh, I should be mindful of not working too much. So I'm actually quite excited to be here and to be starting off this Ways into Work conversation tonight. So it's going to be for sure an interesting conversation tonight. Let me first tell you a little bit about me, what I do, my work, because actually my contribution to this conversation tonight is a roadmap. So it's a roadmap, a cultural roadmap to the Swedish workplace. So because actually the roadmap is connected to what I do, just let me briefly tell you what is my work. So I'm an intercultural and inclusion trainer from Malmö, where I have been living now for 8 years in Malmö. And I have started this line of work in 2017. So I'm in my 5th year now as an intercultural trainer. And coming from a background, from a quite long background before, international background, as an employee. So I have been working for companies in different roles, different countries before. And so I have 3 work areas. Number 1, culture training. So here I'm helping typically business people, executives coming from abroad here in Sweden. They have a responsibility, they have teams, they have a mission to accomplish. On the other side, they don't know much oftentimes about the Swedish culture, how to interact in Sweden, how to lead a team in Sweden, how to communicate, etc. So I help them with that. Number 2 area that I work with this is more for teams. So it's not one-to-one, it's more for teams, and it's global mindset. So this is all about, it's not focused on any specific culture, it's more about how do we make the collaboration work when we have around the table so many different cultures involved. And then the number 3 area that I work with is cultural mentoring. So that's, I guess, it's the main reason why I'm here. So cultural mentoring, and here it's all about supporting newcomers, people that have arrived to Sweden that are in search of a job, or maybe they have already a job and they want to switch into a different career, into a different job, or maybe they want to start their company. It's all about also professional reinvention. How do you start anew? How do you understand the local market? And so, yeah, so that's what I do every day. The roadmap comes from this experience. So I'm gathering the ideas from this experience and kind of the building blocks of this roadmap, because I think we all know that. So finding a job in Sweden is not extremely straightforward and easy. You might know that already, either because it's your personal experience, or it might be that you have informed yourself, you have heard about this 70% figure. Anybody knows about what I'm referring to, this ratio, 70%? You might have heard about that. So actually, it's from 2016. It was a study. Actually, it's the Swedish governmental institutions themselves. They have estimated that at least 70% of the job market here in Sweden is hidden. It means that there is a job, there's a need for a job, there's a job, and in the end, there is a recruitment. However, it's not transparent for newcomers because there is no job ad. So for newcomers, it's very difficult to be aware of these opportunities. And this is 70% or more. So this is a problem. It creates exclusion for newcomer talent. And from more recent studies, 2021 is the last that I can think about. Unfortunately, this reality is confirmed, and this is across types of education, level of education. So it's a problem even for higher educated people, people that are a PhD, or people that have a higher level of education. It's across job types, and it's across the level of education. So yeah, finding a job in Sweden is not incredibly easy. So hopefully with this roadmap, my goal is to give you a couple of tips and tricks how to go about it. And it's going to be about what we can do as individuals. And this is not to say that everything should be on our shoulders, of course. So the government is doing things, and then companies are doing things, and then association, etc. So of course, and this should be even more. There should even be more efforts from their side. But now that's not the topic today. We're going to just focus on what you and me, what we can do to improve this situation, to maybe behave or maybe understand things in a different way that is more conducive to success into this market. And I like actually the concept of a roadmap for two reasons. The first one is because I want to signal that there is a sequence. There is a sequence in the steps that we take. And when I meet people, I mean newcomer talent in search for a new job, oftentimes I see that the sequence in which they act is probably not ideal. And more on this in a minute. The second reason why I like the concept of a roadmap is because I mean this is a journey. It should be a journey made of small little steps that we can take every day. So, and this is also a kind of a mind shift. It's difficult for newcomers, for many anyway, of the people that I work with, it's difficult to get into this mindset of small steps that depend on us that we take every day. Because typically what I hear when I ask people that I start working with, okay, so what have you been at? What are you doing in terms of job searching? They're like, oh, I have sent so many CVs, and I sent dozens of CVs, and I have found any possible job, even remotely related to what I do, and I send the CV and I send the letter, and I did this multiple times. So now what I'm doing now? Nothing. I'm waiting. I'm here, hopeful, waiting for that day when at least one of these companies will answer back and will call me for an interview. And that day I will be ready, and that day I will tell them what I can do, what my skills are. But now what can I do now? I mean, I cannot do much now. I've already done everything I could. I've answered so many ads and sent out so many CVs. Well, I see two problems with this approach. The first one is that if this is you should, I think again, because the first risk here is that you get exhausted. You get completely exhausted and possibly frustrated, because probably that's not the way you're going to find your first job here. I'm not saying it's impossible, nothing is. However, it's probably not going to cut it, and you're going to get exhausted. And second, as you are sending out so many CVs, so many of the same CV, over and over again, in that time you're not doing other steps, you're not taking other steps that would be more beneficial for you in order to reach your goals. Because so let's talk about these steps, and let's talk about that sequence, because you might think now that this Swedish job market is like a kind of fortress, and it is, but I'm here to say, yes, it's difficult to conquer this fortress, but it's not impossible. It's all about knowing where the bridges are in the fortress. So, and if your strategy is, you're sending in arrows, like, from a distance, you don't even know where they're landing, you don't know anything about this mysterious fortress, you're like, CV, and another CV, all of the same, and you go on doing that, and you go on doing that, and you typically you send this to, you don't know anything about where they land. It's to undisclosed recipients, typically. That's probably not the best way to do it. It's probably not going to cut it. So you might be like, okay, so what's the right sequence? What should we do? What is the better way to approach that process? Yeah, so that's what I would like to talk about today. So I would like to give you 3 steps in this sequence. The number one is more of an inner step, is getting clarity about the market through values. Understanding the values is paramount, the values that are in a society, that are foundational in a society, in order to understand how the society works, hence how its job market works. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes on 3 main values of the society. Because oftentimes newcomers, they arrive here and they don't even take a breath, and they immediately furiously start sending in CVs. And we understand why, because we want to feel that we are active, that we're not losing time, that we are we are doing something. But first, let's take a breath and let's understand the values that are underneath the surface so that we can relate better to this market. Second step that we're going to talk about is, okay, now that we know some foundational values, what do we do with this fresh understanding? How do these values relate to the job market? How are they supposed to make us change our attitude? How should they prompt us in a way that is conducive to better results on this market? So we're going to talk about these attitudes and the attitude shift that we could have knowing the values. And third part, and that's where we step into action. Okay, so now we can finally act. We can finally take action. So what kind of actions can we take? And I will try to give you a lot. I have a lot. We see how much time we have. Tips and tricks, practical, small steps, because it's all about small steps that you can take every day. And you can start immediately. I mean, you can start now. This is a networking event, or in the worst case, tomorrow morning. So, and it doesn't depend on someone answering to your CV. It depends on your personal initiative. But first, as we said, values. So values are incredibly important to understand how things works, because we need to understand the job market here from the bottom up, from the ground up. Values, they help us make sense of the reality. They help us make sense of how people behave, or sometimes how people do not behave or do not react. So oftentimes we just assume that things are going to happen the same way that they happen at home in our culture of origin. That's just because we haven't spent time understanding the values. So values are absolutely paramount. So this is why they are important. Just a little precaution here, because talking about values, in a sense, it's like we're entering a zone, like it's as if there was a big sign, we are entering a sensitive conversation zone. So there should be a lot of precaution that I should normally take talking about values. I decided not to do that now because we need to save our time to talk about tips and tricks. So I'm assuming that we're all interculturally savvy, that we know about generalizing, the risk of stereotyping, because you are internationals. You know that, the risk of culturalism, etc. So I'm not going to go into this, but I ask for your indulgence so that when I will say Swedes are like this, Swedish recruiters behave like that, you will understand that is our generalization, actually. Okay, so I am going to brush on 3 foundational values of Sweden. You have heard about these, I'm sure. Number 1, equality. Number 2, trust. Number 3, personal responsibility. It resonates, isn't it? Number 1, equality. So equality is very foundational value of Sweden. There is no doubt about that. And it plays a role in the job market as well. So equality is, we have heard this, and we all believe this, I am sure. So everyone's equal value. Allas lika värde in Swedish. But in Sweden, we hear this a lot. It's in the discourse of people. We read about this in debates and on SBT News. We read about this everywhere. So everyone's equal value, and at the same time, we are all different. Vi är alla olika. This is also like the compound. So we are equal, but different, but equal. But different. We have diversity, and it's precisely because we have this diversity that we have different needs. And equality means that we should meet everyone's needs so that everyone get a baseline, kind of a baseline of standard of living. It's not just about standard of living, though. It's also, we all have a right to feel included, to feel part of a community, to feel a sense of belonging. This is considered baseline. Normal in this country. This is also a country where the look on the word solidarity is one of the most positive around the world. So everyone has this, it's like a societal goal that everyone in an ideal world should get access to that. It's caring about the next person, even if I don't know anything about that person. And you might be like, nice, but if that's the reality, why is the job market so exclusive? If that's the value, why in the facts, in the reality, there is a huge exclusion in the job market? That's true. And actually, literally 2 days ago, Arbetsförmedlingen, the public job agency, has published a report on unemployment. Luckily, it has gone down now with less restrictions, but it has gone down from 9 something to 7.5 now. But we see the exclusion in the figures, and I have written the figures here. So we have today we have 388,000 unemployed. 56%, unfortunately, is people that are foreign-born. So it's clearly a sign that there is exclusion, that the system has not been successful in integrating enough foreign-born talent, even if there is a need for talent in this country. So yes, there is exclusion. How do we explain that? Well, I think one way to explain this exclusion is to think about the second value, trust. And stick with me here, because it might be it might be counterintuitive. Why should trust be the cause for the job market not be so equal? Okay, so let's see what we're talking about first, the trust. We're talking about generalized trust. In Scandinavian countries, very high. It means that I trust, like, spontaneously everyone on the street. I bump into you, I trust you. Why? Just because that's natural. That's the level of the percentage of people saying that in Sweden is quite high. Scandinavian countries in general. It's called the Nordic gold. And we see that in societies in general, when we have high levels of trust, a lot of things, there's a lot of positive for the society. Happiness is up, corruption goes down, the transactional costs goes down, even wealth and income are higher depending on the level of this generalized trust. So Swedes use this value a lot. Generalizing, you know that? Okay. So Swedes use this value. It's a tool. It's a tool for decision making. It's a tool for influencing. When I need to make a decision, I look around myself and say, okay, who do I trust? Peer trust. Who can I ask? How can I get advice? And then next day I can return that advice. And it's a give and take, and it's a standard, actually very efficient way to make quick, cost-effective decisions. Wait, it's very efficient only when the society is small and when the society is very homogeneous, because it's so natural to trust people, because you're like me. It's not difficult to trust you. However, as soon as the society becomes a little bit more complex, the social fabric becomes more complicated, all of a sudden this tool, this fantastic tool, creates exclusion, unfortunately, because it's more difficult to involve everyone in these streams of trust. And for newcomers especially, how can you get to know these people? How can you have this exchange? So that's why it creates, unfortunately, exclusion. So what can we do? How can we hack this Swedish or Scandinavian trust? How can we make it work for us? We're going to come to that. I just want to talk to you about the third value first, which is also incredibly important, personal responsibility. We have heard about this a lot, especially recently, isn't it? So personal responsibility, it means that if we think about a typical Swedish person and the perception of I that the Swedes have, they have a very independent and individualistic perception of identity. So the I, the sense of I, is quite strong. However, it's supported by the state. So I can be independent, I can take action, I can have initiative, because also I'm so covered. I'm covered at every step of my life. There's always an administration. There's always the state, the welfare state there to support me. Think about kids. When you're a kid, when you go to school, when you need to finance your studies, education is free. And then when you get into professional life, when you get sick, when you get kids, when you get fired, when you get older, you're always covered all throughout your life. So the unwritten contract here is, okay, you are so covered. Now you do your part. Now you do the best that you can. Now you do good in the society. Now you engage yourself at the best of your abilities. Now you're expected to do, you want to do this as a Swede, you're expected, you're also committed to do that. So what's the implication of that on the job market? Well, you should not expect like processes that are extremely finely structured and defined, because people have freedom under responsibility, as they call it. So their role, including in a job, is to have ideas, is to improve processes, is to change the tasks, change the reality at the best of their ability. So sometimes ability vary, correct, across people. So sometimes it's brilliant, sometimes the result is a bit less brilliant. However, it's different every time. And we all had this experience going to Skatteverket, isn't it? Asking a question, and then you get confused, and then the next day you ask again, and you get a different answer. Why? For that reason. You don't have to expect processes to be extremely standardized, even in the public sector, maybe especially in the public sector. Same thing with vårdcentralen, isn't it? You go to one, there are certain rules applied. You go to another one, different rules, isn't it? So it's the same on the job market. And it's the same for you when you search for a job as well. So what are the lessons then that we can take from these three values? What are the consequences in terms of how we should approach our job search? So I would say, number one, just because something has failed today, it doesn't mean that it's going to fail again tomorrow. Just because you get an answer that you cannot make sense of from a recruiter, don't fall in the pitfall saying, oh, this is how Swedes do. No, this is how that person did. So don't get discouraged. You can try again. If you believe in your process and if you believe in what you did, you can try again. You will most likely get a different person, get a different process, have a different experience. So that's also why, surprisingly for many, this is also a job market where it's okay to have initiative, because this applies to the recruiters, but it applies to you too. So you can have initiative. You can call the recruiter. Oftentimes you will see the name, telephone number. Oftentimes you can even see, please call me if you have any questions. They mean it. You can call them and ask questions, of course, motivated questions, reasonable questions, but don't feel that because that's not appropriate in your culture of origin, you should not do it. So yeah, you can do that before with valuable questions, before the interview, you can do it after. That's just an example to say that it's important to put yourself into the right mindset. That's one example. Second learning that I would suggest is that it's very important to make yourself extremely relatable. It's important that you are not afraid to show your uniqueness, to be authentic, to be an all-around person with your personality traits and your diversity and your skills, your personal skills, your technical skills, everything that is important to you that makes you you. That's incredibly interesting for Swedish recruiters. There is this, remember, equality. So there is this focus on the individual, and people want to know what you are passionate about. That's important. So don't try to fit in necessarily. Of course, you should be listening and adjusting, but don't be afraid to showcase your uniqueness. That's important, because we're all different. Remember that. And that's very important. There's this focus on people's skills as well. So you too, you should be interested in everyone's skills. And people's skills are as important, if not more important, than technical skills. So that was the second learning. And the third learning is that remember that there's this goodwill over there somewhere. Maybe you're not in touch with it. Maybe you haven't met these very nice people that just want to do good in the society, maybe by connecting with you, but know that they are there. This is widespread. So there is this nice Swedish word that is, I would call in English, co-human, medmänniska. So there is always a medmänniska somewhere that is ready to help you. I'm seriously having I hope I'm not destroying this cable, sorry. Maybe I should stay on this side. Yeah, so there's always trust, this goodwill, this willingness to do good and to help others, even if it doesn't work every time, but it's there. So we just need to find a contact with this environment, with this worlds, with these groups or these teams or these people, where these places actually where there is this trust. And so now let's step into action. Now that we have explored the values, explored how the values should or could improve our approach. The last step is, okay, now we're ready. Now we're ready to act. So what do we do? Where do we even start if you want to find a job? So I would say first, it's important that we find the streams of trust, what we were referring to before. So I think it's useful to think about trust rather than in terms of individual, I need to find someone who I can trust, where we can have a trustworthy relationship. It's better to think about trust as a place. Almost trust is in the wall, in some places, or in some groups of people. It's a collective feature. It's a property of the group. So for example, if you get into a team, if you get hired, when you will get hired, you will be part of that team and you will immediately benefit from that trust. It's in the wall. Because you made it there, you deserve that trust. So we start from 100 and then of course you can lose it, but you get the trust. In other cultures, you have to slowly build it up. You have to prove yourself reliable first. Here is the other way around that it works. So know that you need to find this stream of trust. Where do you find this? Everywhere around you. Every group, every association. It can be even your sport club. It can be your neighbors. It can be the association of honors in your building. It can be parents outside the school if you have kids. It can be any type of association. And Sweden is very much a country where associations are important. Organized activities in associations are important. So every time you go out of your home, every connection, every place where you go, every conversation that you start, that's a place where you can initiate this trust building strategy, this outreach strategy. So know that these places exist, they are there. And so start thinking in these terms. Here, for example, this is a circle of trust, isn't it? We talk to each other in a different way just because we're here compared as if we were bumping into each other on the street, correct? So it works like this in other places as well. And we all have this type of connections. Some of us have more, some of us have less, but we all know people, isn't it? We all have this connection. We can all start from somewhere. So start from the people that you know, all of them, because all of them, exactly all of them, are potential, maybe not recruiters, even though there could be some of them that could help you get a job, but they have information. So it's a give and take. It's important to be curious, to go out there, to ask questions, to have this. Oh, actually, it's your personal responsibility. You have to be active into that. You have to use this freedom. You have to initiate the conversation. And you too, you might not think about this in these terms, but you also have information that might be useful to another person. Maybe you just discarded it because to you it's not particularly useful, but it will come up maybe in a conversation. So have this mindset. Another tip that I want to give you, and then please stop me when the time is tight, but I think I have some more minutes. Another very important one, this is a huge one. Do you have your pitch ready? Like a thoughtful presentation of yourself, like a 30-second, 1 minute. Have you thought about that, for example, for today? Do you have this like prepared? Have you worked on that? How many? No worry, don't worry, I'm not gonna ask you, but just to see the hands. Oh yeah, nice job. So half of you, more or less. It means that the other half, probably you have work that you could do like tonight, tomorrow morning, small steps. This is a very valuable thing to work on. It will serve you in so many different situations. So it's super important to have it. It will serve you not just in networking, in interviews, even in writing a cover letter, even in writing your CV. It will serve you every day. So work on that. That's a good example, something that you can work on. And it depends on you. You don't have to wait for someone to answer your CV. You can work on this now and it will get you closer to your final goal. And then it's all about getting the juices flowing, becoming creative. And yeah, Google, go there on Google and search, how do I craft my pitch? Ask people. Read books or experts' books like Alice, for example. Get curious, so try different things. So that's also another important tip. Another tip that I would like to give you is to find the streams of trust, these places where trust circulates online too. And this is a new opportunity. I mean, it's not new, of course. LinkedIn was there even before the pandemic, but actually, the pandemic has leveled the playground, the field a little bit. So now we have hybrid events, much more than before, isn't it? So we have more opportunities to explore, to find places where people exchange in a trustworthy way, to communicate. So it's all about getting on newsletters. This one is a good one, of course, but there are many more. It's all about finding the events where you can learn things, when you can initiate conversations. And it's all about LinkedIn as well. Did you know that in Sweden you have 4 million Swedes on LinkedIn? I think it's in proportion to the population, is #1 in the world. So yeah, dedicate a little time, try to build a strategy for that. So you should have a kind of outreach strategy, both online and offline. And it has to do with starting where you are first, so with the people that you can start a conversation with. Make sure that everyone in your network knows what you're looking for. Does everyone in your network know that you're searching for a new job, for example, if you are? And if not, make sure that you talk with them about that. And if you have a pitch, you will be so much more confident and so much more ready and so much more willing to go towards people. And then another tip is that you should also start to build this relationship building strategy, not only from the people you know, but I think that you should also take a jump out into the unknown, and you should also getting interested in your ideal employer. Do you have an ideal employer? That's another question. And when I work with people with career mentoring, when I ask this question, the answer most of the time is, very good question. But not all of them have thought about what your ideal employer is. And that's very important that you think about that. If you don't have one, at least can you describe it? Can you say what you're looking for in your ideal employer? Do you know the exact motives, the exact reasons why you would like to work for that ideal employer? And let's imagine you work for them now. How would you contribute? What would you like to do for them? Why is this important? Why it's important to have your ideal employer in mind? Remember personal responsibility. Remember equality as well. Remember the values that we have talked about. People are interested into knowing what you're passionate about. It will be so much more impressive if you say, okay, if you send an open application and say, okay, I have always been willing to work for you. You are my dream employer. They will call you for an interview, most likely. Not all the time, but I mean, it's important that you have this mindset and you start from there as well. So if you can name that company or project or activity or whatever it is that you're looking to do, great. You can start being curious about it. You can start following them on LinkedIn. You can start asking people around you if they know someone who works there. And little by little, you will expand that network as well. And as you expand and expand and expand and expand from the both edges of this spectrum, so the people that you know on one side, and on the other side, your ideal employer, these two networks will, in the end, eventually touch. And you will find someone that you know and that is connected to this company or organization. So yeah, that's another tip. Checking the time. It's probably not too much time left, isn't it? I have a last one. Should I go with?
What is the time? Yes, we better wrap up, please.
Yes. So yeah. So these were. We keep the last one for the next time because, you know, the strategy and the journey never ends, of course. So these were just some tips for you. But then, of course, we could talk about interviewing. We could talk about applying, and you know, the journey never ends, and you will always have new connection, and you will always have new companies that you want to follow that interest you. So. Yeah, I hope that with these tips, I provided you with some elements to get you started. And yeah, if you're searching for a job now, good luck with that. And if you have questions, yeah, I'm here to try to answer them together with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. I think what we can do, perhaps if people have got any questions, they can ask you during the break or afterwards. So that would be the best thing, so that we keep moving on now. Lovely. Thank you. Ali, please. Yeah. There we go.
Yes, try.
Good. Thank you very much, Ali.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear me? Hello, everybody. It's nice for me to be here this evening, and it's interesting to hear to you, Federica. You raised many important points related to the labor market, trust, personal responsibility, etc. So I have my own presentation. So I will, how I can show, excuse me, I will show it. So, because I want to show some picture, you can help me maybe. A lovely picture about my own journey in Sweden. So as you know, I came from Syria as a refugee 2013, and it was not easy for me to get in the labor market. There is many obstacles, challenges to understand the labor market, the values in Sweden. So my first question to you, what makes you happy in Sweden? We have a lot of homework today. What's your make happy today? Fika, yeah, exactly. Or something else, if we try to get food, Arabic food, it makes me happy, very happy. Mums, it's very delicious. You know, chocolate, we talked about chocolate, so you make us happy also. Semester, you have holiday or vacation, it makes also me happy. And when I learn something new in Sweden, a new Swedish word, it makes also me happy also. It's very important that you are open, curious, you talk about curiosity, to learn something every day a new Swedish word maybe, or a new information about the labor market. It makes us happy also. Yeah, as I told you, it's the maybe first going picture from Sweden. It's very cold, you know, so I came to Glava camp in Sweden 2013 because of the war. And I realized how it's important to make connection with the local people. It's very important. So I make a connection with the freelance journalist in Sweden because I worked in Syria as journalist. And when you came to Sweden, to another country, you have a lot of procedures, stereotypes. So I thought that just only kids ate this small candy that we do in our country, because just kids eat this candy, small candy. But in Sweden they do that. Köttbullar or fish bowls. So my family can imagine how it's could not be that the Swedish people eat köttbullar, or we talk about procedures. So I thought that, yeah, ice bears everywhere in Sweden, you know, so you can't move, but it's not true. It's very important to make connection with, ideal organization, because it's not easy to meet people here, as I heard from you. This question I raised to the Swedes people, how we can become friends with you. So first, it's Föreningar, organization. It's very important because you should have something common interests between the Swedish people, like sport, like events, like to make some friends, as you told about it. Dog tricks. So you can use it also and help you to make friends maybe. Or kids. My kids, Maria and Miriam. So I got a lot of friends like that. Yeah, that's me. And I worked as a journalist before, and in Sweden I worked as a community communicator. And I wrote 2 books about the labor market in Sweden in Swedish language, A New Job in Your Country, and Money Culture, and your work culture, to help newcomers to get in the labor market.
Sorry, I've just got a request. Could you put the microphone in?
Yeah, absolutely. Like this? Ah, there. Yes. And I get a Diplom Diversity Index Award, and now I'm working in Asuria, recruitment company, to help people to get job, or education that leads to the job. Yeah. So I did travel, föreläsningar, lectures in Sweden. So I'm happy to do that, to get the people some inspiration about the labor market, etc. Svenska, Swedish, it's our mirror. So you can't see the society, the people, without Swedish language. It's very important. So you can see your visibility in the Swedish, when you see your mirror, that you can see yourself and your existence and your identity in the new country. So I focus too much from the D1 on the Swedish language. That's why my English, it's not better than you, but it's okay. And the language, Swedish language, you can obtain the Swedes' brain and heart. Comparing with English, you can just obtain the Swedes' brain. So it's very important to focus on language, Swedish language. It's not easy to make friends in Sweden. You say that always, huh? The worst countries in the world for making friends, Scandinavian country, Saudi Arabian. Why? You talked about individualism, and absolutely you can make friends in Sweden when you have something common interest. So there is a lot of possibilities here in Sweden. Connections, it's very important. You talked about it before. And many studies says that 7 of 10 job came of connections. Connections. And that's why we are here, to make some connections, meet another people, mingle. It's very important in the end of the events. Yeah, so to introduce or know another people. What's the key of the new country? It's very typical, maybe boring question that we raise to newcomers. What's the key? It's not just language or work or etc. Participation or knowledge. It's the will, interest, courage. It's very important that you are interested to learn the Swedish language. Many of us, yeah, it's boring language, I don't like it. It's not easy with pronunciation like that. But you should have this, yeah, you should love this language and have this interest. And we feel when we came to, yeah, new country like Sweden, we feel that we are very comfortable with area or with education or with your home country. It's very important, your home country. Don't underestimate your home country. It's very, very important. And we enjoy too much in this comfort zone. But it's not easy for us as a human to get out from comfort zone. It's very comfortable. So it's important to get out, but it doesn't mean that you should be Iron Man. No. Or Zlatan. No, absolutely no. Yeah, just to dare to ask the people about the help. You talk about the help. Yeah, about anything that you're looking for to get a job or, yeah, if you have confused information about something, so you can ask people, yeah, help, but right person. You ask the right person, not every person, everyone. I participated in Göteborg Bokmässan exhibition, and they asked me about 3 tips to the newcomers. So I wrote these tips. Yeah, dare speak Swedish language, do like George W. Bush did. What George W. Bush did? Can you guess? He was the worst American president in English speaking. He made a lot of mistakes in English language. So that's why we shall not be afraid or try to speak Swedish language. I make a lot of mistakes at work, and Johanna helped me and correct my faults in Swedish language. It takes whole the life, unfortunately, to learn the language, and that's normal because we burn outside Sweden. So this method, yeah, for accelerated language learning, don't think too much about grammatic. Just, yeah, try to speak and make faults, mistakes in the Swedish language. Yeah. There is many levels in language developing. Like when we try to speak, so the first month of school of Swedish education, so you are in this zone of fears, and many of people maybe, yeah, say to you, yeah, don't speak bad Swedish language. I know you will not go ahead in Swedish language like that, but don't listen to them. It's very important because there is negative person surrounding us. Don't listen to them. So it comes then zone 2 to dare to speak the language. Yeah. Like that. The new word, it's very important. And many of newcomers that I meet them, how we can learn Swedish language every day. But they forget that they have their own resources, like kids, like my daughters, Maria. So I learned these words, flata, or fleta, or rusticana, slide, or bajskorv, poo-poo, korv. So that's, I mean, we as a human, we have our own resources surrounding us, but we don't think about these resources that maybe that we have at home. you can learn Swedish language from your kids, for example. You understand me? To remember the words, it's not easy. Yeah, I got in the SFI, this school for Swedish language for immigrants, but I forget everything. I hear this meaning a lot. Swedish language, it needs many steps and time and effort of you to get advanced in it. So if you hear to news radio, so it will be easy to remember the words, 20%. If you see the news, you don't understand anything, it's okay. But it will increase your ability to remember the words 30%. And if you see and listen, 50%. And if you speak and try to speak and make mistake, it will be increase and strengthen your brain 70%, etc. To do the language, and that's what our kids do in the kindergarten. They do, they act, they learn very quickly. Yeah, etc. Enough with the SFI, Swedish School for Immigrants? No, it's not enough. Language is like a human being, have two legs. The first leg is SFI, the Swedish language, school, and the life. Praktik, TV, friends, etc., events, try to speak. But it needs time of you and efforts, energy. So that's normal. Don't be frustrated when you try to speak or learn something. Toilet, be, kissa, nu. Who say this meaning? Kids. Jag vill kissa nu på toaletten. I want to be now in the toilet. So think how the kids, our kids, or the kids in general, try to speak without any fears. And this is the problem with us as adults. We have more fears than our kids. Look at this meaning. So think about the kids. Yeah, it's like fish. Language, advancing. It needs water, and our language needs practicing. It's very important. How we understand Swedes people, it's interesting. Lagom, it's very unique Swedish word. Maybe I can translate to moderate or like something in the middle or like that. We understand them as foreign-born persons, shy people, like that. No. Boring people, no. They don't interfere or they involve in make decision, democracy. And we can understand or misunderstand them, fear to take initiative. They have fears like that. But it's values, culture, as Federica talked about it. Don't interfere in another lives. We can misunderstand them. Don't care about another people, no. And planning and repairing, it's not necessary. You will feel that when you work in many Swedish workplaces. Confidence and honesty. Trust, you talk about trust. We can misunderstand them, naive. Like that. So it's very important to understand the Swedish work values. We take this good example, Galil Hundi from Syria, housekeeper, don't have education, but there is possibility in Sweden vocational education, short education that you can get and leads to that work. So there is visibility. This professor from Syria, he made, natural materials that tie, that's material that inside chips board from the nature, so it become environment friendly materials. So there's benefit for that's come from diversity. That's I mean. Yeah. Bashar al-Mustafa, I work in this company, and he inspired the company to explore, to sell these products to another country, Middle East, or Arabian country, another country. And the sales raised up, increased from 1 million krona, Swedish krona, to 2.9 million, 2016, and 2.9 million krona, Swedish krona, to 5 million. So some of Swedes' employers didn't recognize how much there is money outside EU countries, and there is possibility in other countries, and how it's important to have inclusion in the Swedish workplaces. Like that. Long, kort vokal pronunciation, it's a challenge in the Swedish language. It's not easy. So if you see this picture, that's happened with me in some workplace. Short or long pronunciation, vocals. It makes, totally different meaning. 2 words, it's very similar. Similar, but in writing, but in not pronunciation. Fika with chefs, it's very humble, humble, she or he, drinking cafe with us, so understanding the Swedish work values or culture, it's important. Be curious and ask for help, as I told you before, but be careful with the question raising, how you ask the people the question. There is a big difference between to ask the people, have you trained in your country? Have you university in your country? And you can ask them in another way. You understand what I mean? So curiosity is very important. It's material, raw for the future. Be curious, ask, don't be afraid to ask the people. I'm very curious, I ask. No worries, just ask. Gifts, you understand me, that in many of collectives, communities, Arabian countries, Latin American countries, to appreciate or show some respect or how much that you are kind to give him your chef or gifts. But it's not acceptable here in Sweden. It's not. I don't prefer that you give your chefs or pass very well gifts. In many countries, we use strong words like I miss you. In Syria, we use this word, I will miss you. But we don't mean that I will miss you literally. We mean that it will be nice to see you again. But if you use this sensitive, strong words in Sweden, it leads to misunderstanding. So it's very important to understand the Swedish work culture from the bottom, as you told us, and how the Swedes think about many things, like language, because the language tells us a lot. Yeah. This the last picture from Syria, because the picture that come from Syria, unfortunately, it's unfair picture, just war, refugee. But yeah, I'm sorry to say that we had nice country, now destroyed. And Syria is a very famous country with TV drama, Syria production. There is big competition with Egyptian, like that. And it's a nice country, actually. If you are employed, and if you are registered in Arbets Förmedlingen, so please, we are here. Contact us and speak with us. Speak with my colleague Johanna, so we can help you maybe. Yeah, surely. So this is a service, Rusta och Matcha, that we try to support you to get in the labor market. And we will be here, and there is some materials there. Please take it. And business card there outside. So be free and take it. And thank you very much. If you have any question, so yeah, please ask me. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
So you've just mentioned at the end, if people are currently unemployed and they're registered with Arbetsförmedlingen, they can then, do they then request to perhaps come and visit your offices? How does it actually work?
Yeah, it's very important that they are registered in the Arbetsförmedlingen. Then we try to help them, but we are open to that you can talk to us.
Yeah.
There is no problem. We are here, so please speak with us.
Yeah. And what kind of mentoring would you be able to provide normally, or I mean, do you work with people to help give them more tips about the labour market, or finding internships perhaps, or how does it work?
We do all our best, like CV, personal letters, connection with the labor, with employers, companies, tips, right information about the labor market. So we have a lot. It's a supporting package that we have. And if you are curious to know more, so please, we are here. So contact us. Yeah.
Thank you. And in fact, your office is just at the end of the block, isn't
3
it?
minutes,
Yeah, just in
there.
Sundstoyet, the square, just in front of Dunkers, just on this side actually. So very easy to get to. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you. Good. Okay. It's 7:15. So perhaps if we just take a very short break, if you'd like to get some more coffee, use the bathroom, whatever, and then come back in a few minutes so that we'll carry on. Thank you. Right.
The one I got was it wasn't coming from. I don't think it came from directly. Yes, I think it came from. Should be from Ika Bank. I got it from Ika Bank. Well, like it doesn't have. Maybe I would have to look at the letter again and see perhaps see what it is. So I don't know. So what's the name? My name is Manu. No, I'm not a student. I'm looking for a job. Okay. No, you know. Let me take some.
Your turn now, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, in your area, I don't know exactly what we call it, but you have different bemanningsföretag, special, yeah, bemanningsföretag, bemanning, helping, so you have like Randstad, yeah, you have Randstad for one example, they specialize in lag and logistik, and you have different kinds of companies specializing in certain. So, and you have your background, and so it shouldn't be a problem. But you just have to.
And I have, because one of my biggest problems, I am focused on Swedish, and I am okay, but it's also the visa. Because I have job. Exactly. So if I change job, my new job needs to carry the process of the visa. Yeah, exactly. So I have struggled to get that because of course if they have two candidates and one is kind of free of and I don't know where I can get information to guide me because I have job visa but I am actually married with a Swede. So I am, but the marriage visa has never been an alternative for me because they say I will lose the years, I will be here. So it's very complex. And every time I call immigration, they told me different stuff. So for me, it's very worried to change track if I don't know what will happen. And I cannot risk my private life.
Of course not.
Or I just lost my job visa. Oh, sorry, what I do with my husband. So I am in this, and I try to find someone that can orient me. I marry maybe a lawyer, I don't know, an immigration lawyer that can tell me, yes, you've been here for 4 years, you came as a student visa, you got a job, you got job visa, and then you fall in love, you marry, but I cannot change it because then I will lose all these years, and then I need, for example, one person in immigration told me, you have to leave. And I was like, I'm married. What do you want me to do? To leave my husband here? Yeah, because you have to start the process again. And I was like, whoa, no. Then I stick in my job without, even though I don't like it, and I know I have opportunities, but I can't move out of that because that job will not take care of my visa.
Oh my God, that's super
So
complicated.
it is hard. And I will struggling with this situation my private life is in the hands of my employer.
Yeah.
And the relationship with my employer is not. So I can't do anything, right? So, and I'm been trying to get help, but I don't get answers.
But what was your, have you been in contact with your embassy or?
No, with the refugee. And every time I ask something, they come up with the refugee.
And what, have you been in contact with the Mexican embassy?
Yes, and they say, well, it's up to them. It's up to Sweden, your status. And I say, yeah, but it wouldn't be the only person in my situation that I got a job. And then I fall in love.
But you can't, so you have social or your first person, yeah, you have everything.
I have completed everything. I have Akasa, I have Union, I also have contact with Union, and they have a lot of So what I have just decided to do is to wait, because you pass the time it's gone, you have the enough years to apply for a full residency. So what I'm doing is sitting here for a job, continuing as possible in my job, and don't try to risk it, and always pray that please do not fire me, because at the moment they fire me, I have 1 month to leave.
That's terrible.
And I live with this, what do we do? So my private life is fully okay. Would I be able to have kids now? No, because what happens if they just kick me out? What do we do? It involves, and yeah, and no one has been able to help me to understand the relationship regarding job. And when I go to the banks and when I send applications, I go to interviews, I say yes, but then they tell me, yeah, but we are not very clear what is the process of the reference, so sorry. And I did a master in finance, so I do have a degree in finance master, and I have been working in a company for 4 years, and I'm stuck.
I just want to say I have a way, but I don't.
Yeah. So what I'm doing now is waiting for the time pass, and that is more than 1 year. So I've just been trying, and to maybe get an immigration lawyer. I think that would help me.
Are you with a union with them? But usually they have some form of legal help included.
But when you are a citizen, when you're a citizen, what I am is a temporary resident with a job visa. I've been even calling people in Stockholm, like, can you give me advice? Like how to proceed, how to, what do I do? Like, should I apply for marriage visa? It's a possibility that I need to leave.
Больше ты знаешь, что делать, все делать, поэтому мне немножко посложнее. Ну, у меня я проблема, нет, не даже не то, что налоги, тут очень много информации, которую нужно знать, нужно разбираться, допустим, кто ее сама.
Yeah, sometimes it's usually good. Yeah.
Finding
Okay, everyone, thank you. Thank you very much for heading on back. Time is running away with us this evening, but it's good to see so many people meeting new friends and connecting. So we're now going to turn to Ina, who's going to talk to us about how of her experience moving different countries with a family, looking for work, starting over again, and everything that comes with that. So Ina, thank you. We're really glad you could be with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
There you go. It's just a little clip for you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Thank you to Sally for having me here today. So Sally and I met a couple of months ago, and Sally thought it would be a great idea for me to come and tell you a bit of my expat story in hopes of inspiring you guys a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the downs and the highs of that. I have quite a mixed background. I have a Russian heritage, but I grew up primarily in California. And after finishing university at 22 years old, my husband got a really great job offer at VW in Berlin. And we embarked on the expat life. So this was back in 2005. Friends and family were quick to point out to me back then that Germany has a very high unemployment rate, double digits. Are you sure you want to go there? And I said, yes, absolutely. Why should I be one of the unemployed? So that was my attitude with that. I arrived to Berlin, and thank goodness I had enough sense, even back then, to take German classes. So this is what I did for the first 8 months. I did intense language classes. And when I say intense, I mean really intensive language classes. It was Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day for 8 months straight. And I went from nothing to C1 level in German. And the director of the school told me, I've never seen anybody learn German so fast. And I felt like I'm just on top of the world. That was my attitude. And with that, I dove into the market, or tried to. And I did exactly what you shouldn't do. I wrote my CV and I sent it out everywhere, and my cover letter. And mostly I heard nothing back. When I heard anything back from anybody, it was a big fat no. So that was not very encouraging. And finally, I got my first interview in Germany in German for a marketing internship. That interview was with 2 people. We sat down and we talked for 2 hours. The first half hour was about my work life, and the next hour and a half was about books that we like to read. And I thought the interview went really well, you know. So I was surprised that the next day I got a rejection for that job. The next interview was with eBay, and that was also for a marketing internship. I was super excited about that one and also incredibly nervous. That was in German and on the phone. And I'm sure you'll be delighted to know that that was the worst experience of my life. So that was just an absolutely awful interview. I was completely unprepared. It was really the language that shook me. So they asked questions that I felt I'm not prepared to answer in German. And instead of trying, I backpedaled and just kind of tried to change the subject. Let's not talk about my experience there. Let me show you something over here. So not surprisingly, that didn't go well. So there were a few bumps like this. Finally, after 5 months, I found a job. That was also probably the crappiest job of my life. So it was a rough start. I was in that job for a few months. It was a marketing job, but it was awful. And I decided probably I should go back to school. And that was actually a really good decision that I made. I went to get an MBA in Berlin. It was in English, so that was great. I was in my comfort zone. But it gave me a network that was local. And that's a network I have still, despite now it's been 13 years since I finished. So that is the network I go back to still. So highly recommend that. Yeah, so the MBA was really great. It opened a lot of doors for me. And something exciting was happening in my personal life at that time too. I had my first child. So, you know, when it rains, it pours. So everything was happening somehow simultaneously. The MBA, the children, everything came at once. And after I graduated and had my MBA in my hands, all of my classmates went off, or so I felt, and got these fabulous jobs. And I was sitting at home with a newborn baby, thinking I'm not ready to go to work because I want to stay at home with my child. And so at that point, something interesting also started happening. A lot of my classmates started reaching out to me saying, hey, we need somebody to do some writing for us. Don't you have a writing background? I do. And I said, yeah, I can do that from home. So I got into freelance writing like that, purely by accident. And it was a great opportunity for me to stay at home with my child, which is what I wanted, and at the same time be productive and somehow feel like I'm working towards some sort of career goals. So I ended up doing that for about 4 years. I had some paid jobs like blogging, some journalism work as well. And I worked on my own stories and trying to work up to a book and pretending to be a writer. So that was fun for a while. And then around that time, I also had a second child then. And purely coincidental, a conversation was taking place in California, unbeknownst to me. My father was speaking with his boss at the time and was just casually mentioning his children and what they do. And he said, yeah, I have a daughter in Germany. She has a marketing background and MBA, but now she's having these kids and just hanging out at home and not doing anything really productive. And the boss said to my father, I want to talk to her. I've been wanting to go into Europe for a while. Her background sounds great. Like, just let me know when she's here, we'll talk. I remembered that conversation. 7 months later, 8 months later, I was in California visiting my parents with all my kids. And I went out for lunch with the president of the company. That company was called Melissa Data. It's a data quality company. And we just had a chat. I didn't even have a CV or an updated resume. I hadn't been on the market for a while. And he said, you're perfect. I'm going to hire you. Let's go back to the office. You're going to meet the COO, and you're going to do this. So we're going to make you the managing director. You're going to open the first international office for us, and it'll be great. And I said, well, opportunities normally don't come knocking at my door, at least. So when this came, I knew I had to say yes. But I was completely unprepared for the job. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know where do you begin opening a business. How do you enter a market? I didn't even understand what the products of the company really were. What is data quality? So it was a big new world for me. At the time, I was 29. And when I went to the notary in Germany and sat down with him, because this is what you do in Germany when you register a business, you go to the notary. He said to me, you're a woman, you're young, and you're going to run a business. It's not going to work. Forget it. He said, you know, you're going to hire men primarily because it's an IT it's IT. They're going to be older than you. They're not going to respect you. This is going to be a joke. This is a joke. It won't work out. This is what he told me. But I love challenges. So I did it anyways. And it actually worked out really well. I'm happy to say that business is flourishing. I was there for almost 5 years. I've been out for 5 years now, and that company is going strong, and they're conquering one market after another. So I must have done something right. there. And while I was still in that position, my husband called me one day on lunch break, and he said, "How do you feel about South Korea?" And I said, "I vaguely know where that is on the map, but that's about it." And I said, "Why, are we going there?" And he said, "Yeah, to live." So I said, "Wait a minute, let me do some research first." It took me about 15 minutes to understand that I would never be able to find a job on the market in Seoul, because South Korea is 99.7% Koreans. It's one of the most homogenous countries in the world. And I didn't think or believe that I could learn Korean fast enough. So I said to my husband, the only way I'm going to go is if your employer gives me a job as well. And the employer he was talking to was Hyundai at the time. I'm in marketing. Hyundai needs marketing people. So they said, "Yeah, let's fly you both out, and we'll take a look." So we flew out there. We spent 3 days in Korea looking at housing, looking at schools, conducting interviews, eating the Korean food, trying to kind of understand the culture. And as we got on our flight to go home, in our first class wonderful seats with our glasses of champagne, we said, "This is absolutely not for us." It was just not going to work out. So we got home, and the first thing my husband did was he called his future chef and said, "It's not happening. We're not coming to Korea." And the chef said, "Okay, you don't want Korea, but we want you both. How about Frankfurt?" And so we were as a reminder, we were in Berlin at the time. We said, "Frankfurt, that's close enough. Why not?" So off to Frankfurt we went. And that was, an interesting 2.5 years as well. This was then 2017 that we came to Frankfurt. And in 2019, we together, my husband and I, transitioned to Koenigsegg Automotive. So for those of you who don't know it, it's a supercar manufacturer here in Ängelholm. And Koenigsegg makes the fastest cars in the world, fastest production cars in the world. My husband is the chief designer there. I was in the marketing department there for a while, and transitioned ultimately to a special projects team about 7 months ago. But recently, we decided that it's just too comfortable for us here in Sweden. And actually, we made the decision to go back to Berlin. So we are going to be going back next summer after the kids are done with school. I have left my job at Koenigsegg, and I'm back on the market now, and actually very excited to be here. I mean, on the market, because it's an exciting time. And I've been away from Berlin for 5 years, but I go back a different person. So for me, career-wise, a lot has taken place in 5 years, and I'm excited to go back to the city that I call home, kind of being a different type of professional than I left it. So that is my story. But before I leave, I wanted to share 5 points with you guys that I think are a little bit more universal, and pointers of how do you navigate the expat life and finding a job on the market. Number 1, I think you've heard it a lot today, learn the local language. It's tough, it's super tough, I know, but you have to do it, and the reasons have been said already today. Number 2, this one has also been touched on, network. I think that you cannot underestimate the value of your network. So it's so critical. Don't say no to events, like HIC, like anything that comes up. You never know where the next opportunity is going to be. So just attend everything, talk to everyone, be proactive. Number 3 is advocate for yourself. And I think this was a tough one for me to learn, that you have to help yourself first, and speak up for yourself. So don't wait for somebody else to see what kind of a gem you are. Hopefully they will, but you need to be your own first advocator, really. So sell yourself. It's okay to do it. And number 4 is related to that. Sell yourself, but be brief. And that goes back to the pitch. You really only have 30 seconds, 1 minute to make an impression. So you need to say everything that is critical for me to know about you in that short period of time. It's a talent in itself, and it's something that you have to perfect, your pitch, but it's absolutely necessary. So I've worked essentially in a recruiting function before, and when you're looking at 60, 70 CVs, it's not possible to read through a 15-page presentation. And I know that when I receive that presentation, this is probably a really accomplished individual, because I can't do a 15-page presentation about me, but I don't have the time to read it. And if I just scan through it, if nothing jumps up, that person is unfortunately going to the no pile. So you really have to pitch yourself. And number 5 is don't give up. It's actually super tough to be on the market, and it's really hard to get rejections, and they keep coming. Now I'm, as I said, back on the market. I'm also applying for jobs and sending out my CVs. A lot of rejections are coming in, but sprinkled in between those rejections are really great and positive letters and positive feedback. So it's really about finding the right match for yourself. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ina. I knew you'd have a good story to tell us. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I only knew a little bit of what you've done, really, because we have only met that once before and we've been in touch since. But so it was great to hear the background as well. And actually you reminded me in the middle of your last points there of something I learned when I was a student. My 3rd year at university was working in France at a school, did a languages degree. And when we were there at our induction, I can't think what you call it, English is gone, the first few days of our induction course, by a coincidence, the assistant who was working at the school that I was just about to start at was one of the speakers at this very impressive venue in Paris. And it was something she said to me, and I've never ever forgotten, or she said, sorry, to the whole audience there, and that's never say no to an invitation, because you just don't know where it might lead. Obviously, you need to use your judgment about invitations you might get, but you never know whether the next door neighbour, the elderly next door neighbour, has invited you, but has also invited her son or her daughter or a family friend or somebody else who will be a good connection for you, or who may have another good connection for you. Don't turn down things like volunteering. We talk all the time at HIC about volunteering, about getting involved, about joining associations, about being part of the local life, because as we've heard again this evening, just sending out CVs is never enough. So find other ways of connecting with people. This is what we're passionate about with HIC. We want everyone to be connecting, to be meeting more people, to be making friends, but also to be making great connections, so that, when that moment comes up and you sound as if you had some wonderful sort of fortuitous moments, someone, how about so-and-so? Let's think about them. And I can think of other friends this has happened to as well. So please, always follow up the possibilities. Get yourself out there. It's been quite hard the last 18 months. We've all got so used to sitting at home and trying not to mix with people that I must admit I've found it hard at times as well, thinking, okay, we need to have a conversation now, need to make a plan to visit someone or to invite somebody over. We've all kind of forgotten what to do. So, don't hold back. Get out there, find ways of meeting other people. take those invitations, find out what's happening, take a deep breath. A lot about being a foreigner in a new country is about taking a deep breath and trying something that you wouldn't normally do. So I know we've only touched the surface tonight. There's so much that we could talk about when it comes to finding work, but I hope that you found some ideas, some inspiration, some new friends and connections this evening as well. Alejandro came up to me just before Ina was speaking, saying that he'd be very happy to help people with their pitching ideas. So we don't really have time to go into that tonight, but if you'd like to come up and speak to him about that, Alejandro, I know you're a storyteller yourself, aren't you? You're in marketing or communications above all. So this is your opportunity. Here's someone who's ready to help. So thank you. So I feel a bit silly stood here like this, but never mind. Just to finish up really quickly, in case you don't know already, you can find us all over social media. Just have a look. And you're also very welcome to get in touch. So thank you for coming this evening. Please enjoy some more tea, coffee, food and drinks, and we'll see you at the next event, I hope. Thank you.